Let's have a look and review the updated Logitech MX Master 3S mouse. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. Logitech sent me these for review. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. In addition to this updated mouse, Logitech have also released an MX Mechanical and MX Mechanical mini keyboard. However, after testing those keyboards out for a few weeks, I decided to do a separate video for them because there is a lot to say, and this way we could just focus on the mouse review. So what is new in this mouse? Many of the internals. What Logitech have done is kept the same design in the overall form factor. This can be seen as a tick-tock or a tick-tock-tock design cycle in tech, where a tick is a new design and a tock, whether it is one or two, is an iteration improvement of the same external design. This is allowing a company to improve the user experience while also saving money on the R&D for industrial design. This so far can be seen in the MX Master, MX Master 2, MX Master 2S, where there are little external tweaks here and there, but most of the improvements are under the hood. And this is the same with the MX Master 3S. It looks almost identical to the MX Master 3 before it. In fact, it is identical. The only difference you see here is the color. In a way, everything has changed, and yet it is still the same. What you get in the box with this mouse is obviously the mouse, a Bolt dongle, and a USB-A to USB-C charging cable. So what have they improved in this iteration? Well, many of the buttons. They are now 90% more quiet, and let me put it this way. When I saw the initial press release, I didn't give it this much thought at all. I just think it's a lot of hype, but after using this mouse and just playing with it in the first few minutes, I can tell you right now that I definitely love these quiet, less clickier buttons than the MX Master 3. The buttons feel, or as I say, less clicky. The keys are much softer, but they still have a really good response as well. The side scroll wheel on the side where your thumb is a little bit tighter as well. What Logitech have done is also update the sensor inside this mouse to an 8K DPI sensor. Now, what they claim is this mouse can now track on glass. Let me put it this way. Since the original MX Master that was released more than a few years ago already, those mouse can already track on glass without any problem whatsoever. So this can only be an improvement on the previous generation. And it will also track on glossy surface as well, where majority other mouse, for example, Apple mouse, would just not know what to do. The cursor wouldn't move at all. These mouse have no problem tracking on those surfaces. And it is, to me, one of the main selling features for the MX Master series in general. Now, based on using this, the MX Master 3, the MX Master 3S, do I notice it being more precise or anything like that? I can't really tell. Because the other one was already great, and they have just improved great to make it even better. But if you like the sound of the keys that is more quiet and the feel of it overall, it may be a worthwhile upgrade. It also has ultra-fast scrolling and a user MagSafe electromagnetic wheel. This is also in the other generation as well. You can scroll up to 1,000 lines per second and stop directly on a pixel. That's what they claim anyway. I don't really ever have a need to scroll that fast. I'm just really scrolling to read text most of the time on a website. So, I don't need that feature. However, I want it to scroll that fast is there. Let me put it this way. I choose the Logitech MX Master series mouse a few years back because of its ergonomics. Using the Apple mouse for a long time, doing editing in Lightroom where I have to spend hours in front of the computer, my hands get fatigued, my wrists start to hurt, and moving to a form factor like this that grips in a hand better, like what you're seeing right now, I generally prefer this. Now, I know some of you have chimed in that says that, the Magic Mouse work perfectly fine for you, you don't have a problem with that. This is the reason why everyone needs and ergonomics are very different. What might work for me, for this mouse, may not work for other, but this is also one of those things that gives us option for the things we want to use. The battery life on these mouse does last for a very long time. I rarely have to charge them, and charging these end up becoming an afterthought because once they are fully charged, they can go for quite some time before you have to recharge them again. If you look at the spec of these mouse, Logitech doesn't even list the battery life of these because it is really that good. And in my testing of this, obviously I've used the other mouse MX before, and I can tell you right now that the battery life is not an issue. In fact, I even have an older MX Master 2S, and the battery life on that mouse is still really good considering how old it is, and it has been at least a few years old now. As I mentioned, this mouse come with the Logi Bolt dongle, which forgoes the unifying dongle 2.4 GHz wireless technology for a new Bluetooth-based technology. This is supposed to add more security and also is less prone to interference from the 2.4 GHz spectrum. In my testing this dongle, what I have done is use a dongle that is paired with the mouse and keyboard and move them to the different USB ports on the same machine. It still continues to work without any problem. In fact, what I have also done is take this dongle and plug it into another Macintosh system altogether without the Bolt or the Logi Option Plus software installed, and it still functions just fine. And I've also taken this dongle that was paired on a Mac, brought it over to a PC, plug it in, and it works just fine, again, without any software installed. So obviously this dongle still offers a lot of versatility. Now with this dongle, what you can also do is pair up to 6 devices with the dongle. However, in order for you to do that, you're going to need to either download the Bolt application or the Logi Option Plus application so that you can pair additional devices to this dongle. Now, a few things I want to caution about the dongle is that if you're trying to use these mouse just to set up a new Macintosh, or one that doesn't come with a mouse and keyboard, such as the Mac Studio, and you're trying to pair it using Bluetooth, it's not going to work. So you're probably going to have to use a dongle that comes with the device, plug it in, and it should work. But for the best experience possible, my recommendation is to pair the mouse and keyboard that you want to use with a dongle first, then plug it into the new computer that you're trying to set up. This way you have the best setup experience possible. I'll leave a link to the setup video up here and also in the description below so you can watch that a little bit further if you are setting up a new Mac. Now, this does create a dilemma, and it's an important one because if you end up upgrading this mouse and you have a keyboard or a mouse already that is using the unifying dongle, now you have to use 2 dongles. So you have to use one unifying and also one Bolt dongle, especially if you want to use a dongle. If you forgo one of the dongles, you can use the Bluetooth on the machine and, for example, stick with both. The one that uses a unifying dongle, you can use the Bluetooth that's built into your computer and use the signal for that. Although if the signal is not as good, then you really have to go back to using 2 dongles again. In a way, it will be a great idea for you to both update the mouse and the keyboard at the same time. However, this does not really fit into everyone's agenda and also update schedule. So unless you really want to do that, I wouldn't highly encourage you to go out and do this by any ways at all. The mouse function and button can easily be customized using the new Logi Option Plus software. This is a new software unlike the Logi Option that had come before. These two software are not necessarily compatible, and sadly, I don't believe there is a way to transfer the customization option from the Logitech Option to the Logitech Option Plus software. I tried to use the online save function, that didn't really work, so I have to go in and re-customize the keys all over again on my keyboard and also some of the keys on the mouse. I'm hoping that Logitech does not introduce these kind of new software that often. Otherwise, I have to do this a lot of times, and I wish there was an option to really do the import the setting from the previous software to the new one so I can apply it to the new keyboard. This mouse is very similar to the MX Master 3 that have come before, with the USB-C port that's right at the front or the very top of the device, depending on how you're holding it. This USB-C port is meant for charging only, and it doesn't carry any data between the computer. So even if you plug in this with the computer and you didn't pair it with the computer using either the Bolt dongle or the Bluetooth connection on the computer, the mouse will not function. So you still need to use a wireless connection. However, the nice thing about this charging port is that even if you leave the charging port, whether to use the cable that comes with it or another USB-C cable plugged into it, the mouse will continue to function. Although when you're trying to use it, you are now being tethered to a cable, and that may be cumbersome at times. So my recommendation, if you know your battery is running low, I recommend charging at night. This way in the morning you're ready to go with your work without any problems. But if you need to juice this up in a bind, you can use it while charging without any problems whatsoever. On the underside of the mouse, there is a button with a flashing light on number 1, 2, and 3. This allows you to pair the mouse with up to 3 different machines, and you can mix these kind of connections. So one machine can use a Bolt dongle, the other one can use a machine Bluetooth without any problems. However, when you're using the mouse and a Logitech keyboard in combination, what I really like to see is Logitech coming up with a solution so that if I switch the machine on the keyboard, it will automatically do that on the mouse as well. I think that would be really cool if they would come up with an option to do that. And just kind of seeing the way how they are creating the Logi Option Plus, I think that that is a remote possibility. We'll see if they end up doing something like this or not down the road, but I mean, it would just be much more convenient rather than having to flip this over every single time to change the computer. This mouse comes in two color, graphite, which is a darker color, and pale gray, which is my review unit. I've always purchased this mouse in a darker color, so I have requested the pale gray option for review. This particular color has 22% post-consumer recyclable PCR plastic, whereas the graphite version has 27%. This is how the pale gray version looks compared to a white Apple Magic keyboard and also an Apple white Magic mouse. I really like the rubber and the matte plastic feel on the very top. However, the pale gray option does show more discoloration over time. Thankfully, based on my testing, this is surface only and a simple wipe of alcohol can restore the look of it. But here are the areas that shows the most discoloration or the discoloration first. Those are the contacts area where you would actually put your hand on the mouse. So the area that surrounds on the side where your pinky would rest, the palm rests, and particularly where your thumb would rest. These are showing a lot of grime, a lot of discoloration. Based on my testing so far, this is on the surface only, and what you can do is simply use an alcohol wipe to really remove the color and restore the look of it. However, if you don't periodically clean this, I'm not sure if this discoloration is going to remain permanent or not. That's something that we shall have to see over time. However, if this is something that you're concerned with, I would definitely recommend getting the graphite option because it will show less of these discoloration. So some of you may be asking, is this worth the upgrade from the previous version? If you're using the MX Master, MX Master 2, or MX Master 2S, then I would say, yeah, it is a really great option because there are a lot of improvement from that ergonomic, from that design over to this new design. However, if you're going to do that upgrade, just remember that this does come with a new Bolt dongle and it no longer uses the unifying dongle. If you're using another keyboard that's not Logitech, that's not a problem. However, if you're using a keyboard and mouse from Logitech combo that's using unifying dongle, well, you have a pretty tough choice to make there. And what about for the people that have the MX Master 3, which still works and functions just fine? I mean, it's just a little different. So if you want the latest and greatest and you want to have this, I mean, it's definitely worth it. There's no convincing you otherwise. However, if the feel and the sound of the button is important to you, the internal improvement and just the overall, just daily use of it is really worth it for you, then I say, yeah, this is definitely worth looking into and maybe worth upgrading, depending on the keyboard and mouse that you currently have. Again, if you're using the keyboard and mouse combo from Logitech that is using a unifying dongle, you're put into a difficult position where you have to either use two dongles, pair one using Bluetooth and another one using like the Bolt dongle, or really figure out a way around this. So it is really quite a dance, and I wish there was a better solution to this, that everything would just be compatible. But that's kind of where we are right now in the midst of this transition. So unless you get both a new mouse and keyboard, or a mouse and an MX Mechanical or MX Mechanical keyboard altogether, there are some of these decisions that you will have to make. Let me put it this way. I think that overall, if you can justify the internal improvement of this mouse and you think that this is going to be much better than MX Master 3S, then I would say it's definitely worth the upgrade. A few more bits I'd like to share about the Bolt dongle, and I also want to share with you the Logi Option Plus software too, and particularly adding a new device to this because you have to go through somewhat of a routine. Something to remember is that once you download and install Logi Option Plus, if you're on the Macintosh side, you have to grant the program permission before you can do anything to it. Otherwise, the program would not work. So if you're on a PC, that will be a different story. But on the Mac side, you definitely need to go in to grant permission so that this program can access the Bluetooth, it can access the controls on the computer and the cursor move, so on and so forth. Now, to add a device, I already have the Bolt dongle already plugged into my MacBook Pro. So what I'm going to simply do is click on Add Device. It's going to ask me the type of connection that I want to use. In this situation, I want to use the Logitech Bolt dongle, and now is doing a search. So what I want to do at this point in time is switch over to input number 3, and it's already blinking. The program found that device right away. I am going to click on connect. Now, in order to connect the mouse, it just doesn't link up like the unifying dongle before it, or you can do a few clicks. You have to go through a click routine, and this is different for every single time that you do this. So right now it's asking me to left click, right click, right, 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 left, right, right, left, right, left and right. So we're going to press 2 at the same time. And that pretty much confirms that we want to definitely link this particular mouse to this particular dongle. Now with this, I have the option to connect another device or set up this device. I can go in and do that. And it says set up your MX Master 3S. I'll do that right now. So there's a few things. It does walk you through a few different options. You can change a different speed. You can extend the sensor range to, for example, DPI. This is like the different option that it has compared to the previous version before, where you just set the pointer speed before. But on this one, you can go in to extend the sensor range. I think this is going to really help you track, for example, on glass. So far in my testing this, I haven't noticed that much of a difference in the DPI, but that's just, you know, using regular surface and not necessarily glass all the time or anything like that. We'll use the 8K DPI for now. So you can do the different kind of scroll wheel. You can have it like click. For example, you can change the mode by pressing the mode button on there and have it like free scroll. So there are different options you can choose. There's the horizontal scroll. You can change it to zoom in and out, volume up or down. So there's a lot of customization on this mouse that I really like. There's the back button, which you can do different things to it, and it highlights all the buttons on the mouse. The forward button right now is set to forward. You can do copy paste. You can set a custom keyboard shortcut, and you can even customize this keyboard shortcut so that it changes with each individual program that you use. This is really helpful. Let's continue. On the very bottom of the mouse, it tells you how to easily switch. That is the button that you have to flip the mouse over in order for you to switch the computer that this is linked with. I wish there is a better way to do this than flipping the mouse over. It's not that bad, and normally I just use it with one machine, but every now and then I'll be running a whole bunch of tests and I want to really test this out, and you have to just flip it over. It's just a slight inconvenience. Otherwise, you can do the different gesture. As you can kind of see there, you can switch between desktop, you can do mission control and all these other things, and it involves pretty much pressing down the side button where the thumb would land and swiping to the left, right, up or down. There's all these things you can do, and you can definitely customize that. And as you can see right now, this is the option to pretty much customize all of the different apps to do different things. And there are pretty much app-specific customization that Logitech has already made, so you can go ahead and use that. For instance, I'm going to say install a plugin for Photoshop. Let's do that now. And it's going to create all these custom settings so that I can use this. Now, for Photoshop, what I can tell you right now is that Photoshop will ask you to download a plugin from, I believe, the Creative Cloud in order for you to use this. But we're going to do and see what happens. So now it says it has been configured and is ready to go. And you can restart the onboarding process at any time. So we have the different buttons. We have the different point and scroll, so we can change the way how this feels by just clicking on there. And what you're seeing right now is my Creative Cloud popping up saying that I must install the Logitech Option Plus plugin in order for the Photoshop function to work. So I'm going to install that and have it run in the background. Let's go back. You can also have the easy switch between the different computers. You can certainly do that. And it will tell you what computer is already paired with this device. For example, number 2 is Mac Studio. Number 3 is this computer. And number 1 is still open at this point in time. You can do flow. So flow is really cool. It allows you to pretty much copy files between computers, but more so, and I think the more important part of this is that it allows you to copy the file between, for example, Mac and PC seamlessly using flow and the mouse. I mean, this is a cool feature, and I'll probably explore this in a video down the road. If you want to see this, let me know in the comments section below. And lastly, here are all the different settings for the mouse that you can go in to choose and customize. So lots of options to choose here. On the very bottom there, it tells me that my battery is 15%, so I probably should charge this up soon, and I'm using the Bolt receiver to pretty much link this up to the computer. So anyway, this is pretty much the Logitech MX Master 3S, and also the Logi Option Plus software in a nutshell. I mean, this is really just touching on the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that will come up from here. So like I said, that's going to be for another video altogether. Anyway, like I said, I really enjoy using this mouse, and after testing this for a few weeks, I can tell you right now that the button sound and the feel of the button does make more of a difference than I thought it would ever do. So I hope that you find this review for the Logitech MX Master 3S mouse helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, give this a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new, and in Art We Trust.